Hi. Well, as the title says down there, it's my 12-year anniversary of making content. Not specifically the 12-year anniversary of my channel, because I'll be honest, I've had this channel since for 14 years now, if we're talking about specifics. But this is my 12-year anniversary video. I've been making videos longer than most people who watch videos on this website. That is weird to think about. That at some point in all this, people have gone off, started their lives, had families of their own, and now those children of their families are potentially seeking out the videos that I make, depending upon how YouTube recommends that stuff. When I started Let's Plays, back in, oh god, what would that be time-wise? 2008? Somewhere around there? I don't know, the Kiwi Craze video is... the Kiwi's Craze video that I made ages ago is the first video I made, but, you know, when I started that, I had no concept of how to be social, how to talk, how to really socialize with people. I guess you could say doing this hobby, trying to turn it into my job, is more or less at this point has taught me how to talk. And of course, still not at great lengths. I still suck at it. I mean, ask any of my online friends or my high school friends. I suck at talking still. I guess I just kind of need video games to help me form sentences around it. Like, it's so weird to think that just this thing involving video games and me playing them started off this entire trend for me of, you know, getting better at talking, sharing my love for what games I have played with the world, and even looking into games that I would have never thought of trying in the past, or even giving a second thought on. You would have thought 10, 12 years ago that I would have been telling myself I am going to be doing Let's Plays of PlayStation games and or PC games, while I'm sitting here looking at trying to adjust for the components that were into it when I started. You think I would have been thinking about recording PC games on my $500 laptop when I first started it? When I first started this whole thing? No, but here we are, recording just about anything under the sun. And this script is, this is just me talking like off the cuff, so to say. I don't have a script. I have like a bullet point list just off to my side here that I'm looking at occasionally, just to help me plot out what I'm going to talk about. But I've got no script for this. I'm just going to yammer into a microphone. You know, a thing I've been doing for the past 12 years. So, when I did first start doing Let's Play stuff, it was primarily emulation on PC. No fluff, no guff, I won't lie to you. If I played a game back in 2008, 9, whatever, it was emulated. I emulated almost everything I did. And of course, that is something that is really frowned upon in the community. So I worked myself, and I saved money aside where I could to save up for and get the equipment necessary to do it, you know, from basics, you know, do it from the actual hardware and not turn to a computer running a faux version of the console running the game. And I think that ended up being better for me. Well, for better or for worse. Because, I mean, I think I have since this point thrown the thing away. But, I mean, starting with a Dazzle and a bunch of what was it? 1 female to 2 male component splitters, so I could plug one end of it into the Dazzle and another end of it into the television. Because back then Dazzle did not have like a live play feature like I use now with my current capture card. Didn't have that live play feature where whatever you're streaming into your computer is real time and you can just play off your computer. No, that didn't exist. You know what we did at that point? We had well, at least I say we. I'm speaking for most of us who used a Dazzle to record console games. We had to hook it up and press the record on it, hope that it was recording, and then we turned over to our TV. We had either a spare TV off to the side, or for me, because I use TVs for everything, change the channel on the TV to get to what I was recording, so I could play it in real time. I just took a quick moment to try and find actually some of those component splitters so I can show you what they look like, but maybe I'll just slap a picture up here on screen somewhere to say, hey, this is what they look like, and these are the ones I used. But we're kind of as of now, it's way easier to capture game footage than it was in some instances 10 years ago. Because like I said, those component splitters were necessary because nothing was made with HDMI in mind. In fact, HDMI was brand new technology when Let's Playing was brand new on the scene and everybody was getting on board with it. Nowadays, myself included, if you have something that takes those components or composites, you just get an HDMI upscaler for those, and you just HDMI, done. So for those of you that are newer to the Let's Playing scene who are doing it yourself and whatnot, if you're recording console games, it is way easier and more affordable nowadays to record console games than it was back when a lot of us started. But just kind of a brief recap, brief synopsis of what I've done in the past. I'm just looking through old playlists that I've got here, and some of them are a little out of order from what I had initially made them. So I'm just kind of scrolling through and hoping that my brain will fix in the blanks, because at this point there might be more playlists of things I've done and they might be out of order from what I've done them. I remember kind of starting out that I was a little nervous to do things on my own starting out, and most of my high school friends were at that time more on board with me doing this to kind of either keep myself preoccupied or even chasing it as a potential business opportunity. So I've got some old playlists here of playing, various Wii games with some of my high school friends. The Kirby Air Ride, Super Mario Strikers Charge, Mario Party 8. I even had like a huge series on Super Smash Brothers, way back in the day. That if I were to pull that stuff up to current day standards, I wouldn't even try it again, man. Like, I wouldn't, if I had that stuff still available to me, and I know I do somewhere on like a hard drive, but if I had that stuff available to me, I don't know if I could have it in me to re-upload that stuff just because the quality was so bad. But I think I would force myself to re-upload it if the worst were ever to happen, simply because I would need to preserve my history doing these things. And then I know going forward, after I did some of these, like, I know I did Artie Lightfoot and I deleted that series, and I've done it a second time since then. But like doing series like Artie Lightfoot back in the day, it was kind of like breaking into that ground of doing things that not everybody was doing, which was really fun for me at the time. And then I think about the time I started doing Golden Sun, which, okay, there's a couple things mixed in with that. I started uploading a series on Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga long ago, and I think I stopped doing it when I was about a third of the way through the game, but suddenly my save for the game got deleted, so instead of working on it to recover my save to get back to where I was, I just nixed the project, deleted it, killed the playlist. That Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga video series, gone. It was only 13 videos long, but it is gone from existence. This also makes me reminisce about how things were done back at the start of YouTube, because everybody will tell you about this. Like, everybody who's new to the scene, this sounds like torture. And believe me, it was torture. So, I mean, back then when you started on YouTube, you had 10 minutes, 59 seconds for a video upload. Any longer than that, and you had to either crop it to make it that long, or make it that short, or you basically had to reshoot the video to fill those parameters. And then a little bit down the road, I want to say, while I was doing Golden Sun, because I'm coming back around to that now. Around the time I was doing Golden Sun, they started upping it to you could upload in 15-minute chunks. And we were starting to get, at that point we were starting to get partners with YouTube, like people who worked directly with YouTube to earn a revenue. And because of that, we also started getting the rise of multi-channel networks to manage manage smaller channels, which, basically took a huge cut from what YouTube was paying partners. Those multi-channel networks took a huge cut of what YouTube was giving out to partnered programs and then redistributing it, giving like 20-30% back to those people. And at that time, I know I was striving super hard to hit that point while still doing my own thing of uploading one video a day, for the most part. Uploading a single video a day, putting what video knowledge I had into it, or putting what knowledge I had of editing into it, making it as enjoyable experience as possible while flexing my knowledge on a game, and just having fun. And I'm gonna side tangent on that for a bit, but like a lot of people, I started off recording with Dazzle. Well, at least for things that weren't on PC, I started off recording Dazzle's in-house recording software, and then I moved it over to an editing suite that I purchased. But before I bought that editing suite, I used Windows Movie Maker, and oh god, Windows Movie Maker was such a pain to work with. Like, I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. That's what we had at the time, was Windows Movie Maker, or pay $200 for Final Cut. At that time, didn't have $200 for Final Cut, or whatever it was back around 2006, 2007. And then, oh, there was another program. I don't think it was Camtasia. Maybe it was Camtasia. I can't remember the name of the program I used to edit after that one. All I remember is it had a green logo and let me put a watermark on my videos, which was necessary at the time. I'll come back to that in a second. And it allowed me to be a lot more technical with how I edited things together. I never learned the ins and outs of that program very well, so whatever. But I also, I remember now, because I used that program not only to edit everything, but also used it to record from my Dazzle at the time, instead of using the Dazzle built-in program. And it basically would record into the editing software. I could then save it in the editing software, edit it in the editing software, export. I could do everything within that studio, which I'm pretty sure, which I said it so many times, I want to say it's Camtasia. I could be totally wrong. And then and then I remember that program started bugging out on me. Like, I would only get it to work 50% of the time. Or it would only let me edit things about 50% of the time. I can record stuff just fine, but editing became a problem. But then it's just like, okay, restart my computer, and it suddenly started, okay, whatever, just mark it off as a bad day, go for it. But shortly after that, when I started recording console stuff, I want to say around the time I recorded, I lost my train of thought because I went and found a better way to look up my playlist, but I want to say around the time I either recorded Super Mario Galaxy, Sonic R, or when I recorded a Subspace Emissary playthrough of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I want to say around then, I upgraded to a different editing suite. The same company, or the same holder, I should say. The same holder of the Power Director, I guess. I found an older version of Power Director and started using that. And that's actually the one I still use that's still the editing suite I use to this day. But I want to say around then, I found Power Director, started using that for my editing, and even though it acted like Camtasia, it functioned way better than Camtasia and didn't break down on me every other minute like Camtasia did. So I was able to, record the video, record my vocal audio, edit everything down in it. I was able to do everything in one spot. And that's right about where I started getting more refined with how I did things, where I started recording the video with the editing software, but my voice I recorded with a different thing. I think this is actually the first time I started using Audacity to record my vocals separate. Because before then, I just clumped everything all one big goopy pile, we'll say. Gross, I know, follow me on this one though. I recorded everything all in one big gross pile, and if I was too loud, or the game was too loud, or if either one was too soft, it's going up. There are a couple times where I had that issue, and I just said heck with it and went and put it up anyway. But I got more refined with how I did things. I adjusted how I recorded things accordingly. And I want to say around the time I did that, or did those games, is when I started experimenting with the Elgato software, with AverMedia. I was using an AverMedia capture card, a in-tower AverMedia capture card, so to say. I was using that to capture all my footage, and how I was capturing that was I was so stupid. I didn't use the built-in record button at the bottom of the screen like you should, because I was like, oh, I have this thing called Fraps that I use, and I'll just use that to capture the entirety of the window. No questions asked. Haha. Questions were asked. Because while I was doing that, and I think around the time I started recording Splatoon, the original Splatoon playthrough, I started having this jittering issue, and I was going, oh my gosh, why is everything so jittery? Why is everything taking so long to edit down? Why is this, why is that? This is the first time I ran into the issue of space. Frankly, hard drive space. Because before then, with all the other programs, it had compressed everything down and I didn't realize till I switched over to using Fraps to record many things. I didn't realize that the editing suites, though they were compressing down things bite-sized, that they was making things a little muddy with how it looked. And Fraps, I realized, made it look better. But Fraps takes up a lot of hard drive space. And I also learned that when I started doing projects on DS games. Just looking through what I've got here, because this all happened about the same time, which is weird to think that I upgraded to an AverMedia capture card at the same time that I went and got a 3DS capture card. But for the DS, like, I didn't do any DS games till I had that 3DS capture card. Which is wild to me thinking about it now. But regardless, like, I started recording that Splatoon's, like, this, I learned about hard drive space, and that's when after I got my 3DS capture card set up, I also discovered, oh, if you have more than one hard drive dedicated to your recording, you have room to just record forever and ever. And we'll come back around to that point later on when I get to that. So shortly after I started getting into recording DS games, I got a proper capture card that took HDMI for everything. I started messing around with the thoughts of doing blind Let's Plays. Something that's not foreign anymore, because a lot of people, when a game comes out, they boot up the game, or depending upon their standing, they may even have an embargo, or may be embargoed, but record the game still before waiting for the embargo to lift. Which, for those of you who don't know what an embargo is, because I didn't understand what it was until about 3 years ago, closer to 5 years ago. Embargo means you have the game, you can do whatever you want with the game. To prepare a review, play it on your own time, more than likely make a review, or make your own video series, but you cannot put a single millisecond of footage from the game up on your channel until the embargo lifts, basically the street date for everybody. So people who play new games now either are under what do they call it? Non-disclosure agreements. They set up non-disclosure agreements to not discuss the game until the street date hits, but they'll sit there and they'll record out a huge chunk of the game before the street date breaks. But going back around to what I was saying, this is when I started messing around with doing blind Let's Plays. Mainly with, well, first off, Earthbound, the original Earthbound. I say original Earthbound. Basically, we had Earthbound, but there was no way for people to play it unless they had the original cartridge, or they did other means to do it. Would I still want to play Earthbound nowadays, blind even, if I never played it in unofficial way beforehand? Yes. I would. I mean, I have the way to do it. I would definitely do it. But I remember when I started doing blind Let's Plays that people, like for Earthbound, people got on my case for doing them because, I mean, you're in the Let's Play crowd, you're in this huge landscape of people who do these videos. You're gonna know how to do something just because you partake of the medium you're also creating. So, especially with Earthbound, I got so much flack. I got so much crap because I knew how to beat the final boss of Earthbound. And people came down on me. Not only did it kind of open me up to the whole, man, people really are toxic about, you know, a beloved game, if you're not going in 127% blind, they really are going to come down on you because you know something about the game and it's not truly blind. But that also then turned to me, being who I am, just like, okay, so if I plan to do a blind playthrough of a game, it has to be actually blind. I cannot have seen a single moment of footage from this game. So whenever I do a blind playthrough of a game nowadays, well, I guess as of like 4 years ago at this point, if I ever do a blind playthrough of a game, it is blind. Minus one or two things, of course, but if it is, if a title says blind in it, that means I have seen zero footage of it, zero knowledge on it, and have no idea how to play it. So I'm experiencing it for the first time. If I put something like blindish, it means I've seen somebody else play it, so I kind of know what I'm doing. Kind of mentality. I stood on that point for way too long, but I wanted to make sure I drove it home. So I want to say, around the point that I started doing, well, let's see, I mean, like everybody, I did a Let's Play of Undertale. Everybody did one. But around that point is, I think when I started to change from Avermedia, because I think something with it was rubbing me the wrong way. And I wanted to get something better. And of course, Elgato was the way to go at the time, because I heard almost nobody talk about using an Avermedia capture card. I was like, the one. So it's like, okay, I have a tax return here. I don't have any bills to pay. Let me go get an Elgato and see what all the fuss is about. And I've been using that same Elgato capture card this entire time. Basically, I think starting roughly with either Kirby 64 or, I'm looking here, or Super Mario Advance 4. Now you might be thinking, wow, those series came out just recently. Well, when I recorded the series was well before when it was added to, when it was visible. But that was also around the time when my good friend Lucky7DX and Tamal9, we started experimenting with Versus stuff, because around this time, we started doing, you know, seeing the Versus channel, for lack of a better example. We saw the Versus channel, and I'm almost like, we should do stuff with that. So not only was I doing stuff in my own time, but for mainly on Lucky's channel, we started doing races of games that everybody knew. Me, not so much for one of them, because I was a scrub lord, but you get the vibe. I was now done with using component splitters for everything. I stuck with strictly HDMI if possible. And it was basically, I basically was playing games fully upscaled to what was their native resolution. Well, their expanded resolution rather, but still looked like they recorded on the original hardware without all the harsh scan lines everywhere and degrading the quality. So that's where stuff like Sonic Shuffle and Croc Legends of the Gobos came in. But also around that time, I want to say it was around that time where I started really getting into separating things out into series and side series. Like at this point, I had already been doing the Think Fast series for about 7 years at this point. The Think Fast series, I still love doing that series. It is, full transparency, it is a costly series to do. Because it's like, oh hey, game, buy a game, play a game, set game aside because I'm working on a video series. Oh, but I have another video series here. But I want to play more of the game. Oh, but I have to buy another game. You get the vibe. But I also decided to go, hey, instead of having, you know, normal uploads go on Sundays, what if I did side series things and put those up on Sundays instead? So that way, throughout the middle of the week, I can focus most of my time on recording a side series of games, or focus most of my time on recording a main series of games that is more cohesive and not as broken up. But those side series would in turn end up being their own thing, you know, more compact things that are easier to digest and easier to process just because of the nature of how they're broken up. Whereas with the main series, you know, I can have more control over the main series of when things start and stop, and I can focus more of my editing prowess on it. I know I mentioned it a bit ago about the Switch and how I was switching up, everything from that, but with the Switch, that was about a couple months after I got all these upgrades, so everything was HDMI, had the Elgato, all that jazz. I invested huge amounts of my time into Breath of the Wild. Like, Legends of the Breath of the Wild was a series that took an entire year to get out to the public. I don't think I will try and do a series as long as that if I can help it. Like, yeah, the original run of it was only 113 episodes, but the DLC added in another 40, 50 episodes on top of that, and it's just a problem. I'm staring at the video count on that playlist right now, and Christ, it's a lot. But that was my first try to do a long-running LP. Not only a long-running LP, but seeing how much I can push myself. I can push myself to finish a game and how quickly I can get the game done and upload it for a daily upload for people to enjoy alongside me, or, you know, if they're stuck, find where they are, you know, follow along the series to kind of follow in the footsteps of what I'm doing. But because I got all that done, I think that's when I learned the harshest reality of, okay, if I'm gonna, I have so many series set up in advance that if I do, I don't want to do a series so far in advance that I lose the connectivity with my audience. Because I learned that lesson far too late, but I finally did learn that lesson with Breath of the Wild. So that's about the point where instead of just recording whenever I feel like and keep recording, even if my body can't willfully do it, just to stop after every 5 episodes and go, okay, I have to stop. I can't keep recording because I'm going to lose connection with my audience. Again, I learned this lesson way too late. But then I started getting into, I started finding my trend and started finding things where I could break off from, and started streaming because I had so much free time to myself now that I wasn't recording, that I could go, oh yeah, I've got, I have nothing that I need to do for the next 7 months, 8 months. I'm just going to start streaming now and doing other things with my time, which entails when I've started doing the Name That Game Tune streams, which kind of boiled down from Odin Spec, but Odin Spec didn't start that. But he did it enough to the point where a lot of his friends started doing Name That Game Tunes every now and again. And I still like doing those. It's just getting to the point of doing them. But that's also when I started turning to Twitch as well as recording content for YouTube, because I was in a good workflow where I had plenty of content going on YouTube to allow me time to work on Twitch. But it also hit me at a point where I'm investing way too much time into video making. I need to invest my time into other things. And I'll come back around to that point again later with some things I did, because there is a moral to the story once we get there. But shortly after that point, I started looking into doing series that weren't just, here's the new Mario, here's the new this, I started looking more into series that, had more impactful meaning, or at least from my perspective, had more of an emotional weight on me. So I did start doing some series that had more of a, I guess that really started back with Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, but I started doing them more, like with games like Papa and Yo. Man, there's probably one or two other ones here that, I started investing more and more time into those. And with that, even though things are kind of broken up, like that leads up to just my history with doing videos as a whole on this platform. Well, as a most on this platform. I'm probably missing some gaps here because there was a period of time where I just kind of lost track of what time was. I want to say from like 2012 to 2016. My life kind of was spiraling out of control at that point, where if I wasn't doing anything with videos or making videos with friends, I just didn't care to think about my life at that time. And it really kind of hurt me in a way and stunted me, not only in my video making process, but also in kind of everything. Being honest with you guys, like, back then when making money off of videos was a dream, a lot of people chased that dream, myself included. But I traced that dream to a point of hurting myself. I want to say around 2011, I developed sleep apnea, but I didn't realize I had it or didn't get to go get tested for it, which, you know, before I did that, I worked at a job for about 2 years before and was falling asleep at my job, not realizing I had sleep apnea. So with that in mind, I finally got diagnosed for sleep apnea and was taking care of it, but was still getting used to it. Fell asleep at work at one time instead of trying to fix it, and they just threw me out. It was a 3 strikes and you're gone scenario. But at the time, I was so hell-bent and focused on making YouTube my job to a point that I hurt my professional life outside of making videos. I started hurting high school friends with how much I was harping on making videos. I started hurting my family with how much it was. I hurt myself with it. Like, if you want to scroll through my vlog videos, one of the first vlog videos I put up in this playlist was me at my heaviest, 450 pounds, with no job, eating myself to death, not getting exercise, and broke as hell with no financial stability whatsoever. Just sitting there going, it'll happen one day, it's gonna happen now, and it'll happen one day. Like, I do recall that there was one time that I got called away to help my dad, help him with something. I can't remember what, if it was fixing a car or doing something with the house. I went to help him. I was helping him, and I was just in a daze because I was going to bed at 5 in the morning when he was waking up. Coupled with the fact I was still getting used to how my sleep apnea functioned, so I was dead exhausted and also had my mind in the clouds beyond being tired as hell, and just started doing stupid stuff while helping him. And he had attacked me making my videos, and I had just recently gotten over an argument with my high school friends about me making videos as well, and everything was about to end right there that day in like 2013, 2014. I was tired of having my hobby attacked that I just said, fine, you know what? Hell with it. And I said, if it makes you happy, I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna smash that computer so you have nothing to criticize me about. And as I started stomping away, I think he realized that the video making was was going to break me if I didn't stay on it. And looking back now, I realized that yeah, the video making hurt me, but it also kept me level-headed. And that's like a breaking point for me as well, where I realized, you know, it took a couple years for it to set in, but like, the video making's fun and everything, but I can't make it my sole focus if I can't physically live off of it. Well, it wasn't right then that it happened, or even 2 years later. It was when I was in my second year of working the job I'm currently working at, where I realized, okay, the video making's fun, and it keeps me level-headed and keeps me a hobby to not make me lose my mind with. I did have to realize that I need to have some income besides the $5 a month I was getting off of YouTube at the time to live. So it's a lesson. That's a lesson I learned at that point. But in chasing that dream, also in that time period where it took me to get my head out of my ass to realize I have to have another job to keep up with this, to keep up with not only making videos, but also with my real life bills that were coming in. I mean, I tried my hardest to chase the dream of being in the big LP group. You know the one. I'm just going to say the Runaway Guys. You know what it's basically going talking about. I chased so hard. In fact, I look back at the footage now of when I interviewed Proton John at MagFest one year when I was at my low point, maturity-wise, we'll say. And I look back at that and I go, God, I really just put that man on the spot when he was trying to enjoy a convention. I'm a dick. And I kind of wish that I could go back in time and just, go, like, even just message him random. I wish I could go back and say, hey, I know this was a one-time thing that went by. I was an asshole. I apologize. You were a hero to me at the time. And I was really trying to bump elbows with your crowd. I made issues. I'm sorry. But I don't know if I'll ever get that opportunity at any point. Maybe I will. Who knows? But another thing that I want to talk about here as well is that like I mentioned, I was trying to chase the big LP group. I was trying to chase, I was trying to chase clout. And only in recent years, like the last 2 or 3 years, I've realized that don't chase somebody or don't try and make friends with somebody on this platform or other social media platforms just because they have bigger numbers than you. Like, to go through the whole steps here. When I first started doing this a while ago, I had me, myself, and I, and my high school friends for multiplayer stuff. Then as time went along, I started talking to people to get ideas for, just trying to get myself out there and collab on stuff. Again, and I went on various message boards, forums, all that stuff. Not only to spread the word of what I was doing, again, chasing that freaking gold rush that we had back then, but also trying to get my name out there. And I came across a guy named I'm gonna say his name now. I don't think he is so much about making content anymore. I think he's more about like just having a good time. So don't pester him, please. But he goes by Old Taki now. And like I reached like in the last year or so, I actually had a chance to talk to him again. We just run into each other on like this. I think he's better off. I think he's better off where he went in life or his own personal reasons. But it's so weird to come back to him because I met this guy. He introduced me to your names have changed so much over here, so I apologize to YouTube across this video. So I just made real life. He introduced me to his friends Ashley, the dog pound, which I think he stopped making content altogether. I don't even know if he's online anymore. He introduced me to Dark Blue or Dark Magic Yoshi, whatever. She provided one of the voices. Those two helped provide voices for when I attempted to do dubbing of Golden Sun. Way back then, when dubbing a game was a popular thing to do. He introduced me to Purple Rodri, which somebody else. He also introduced me to the Fight Kitty. Fight Kitty actually introduced me to Lucky, Tamal, Slim Kirby, and Phazon. So Phazon introduced me to some other bigger names you know now, like Schiller, Maryland, and bless his heart that he got himself out and got better. But Kabanamani, when he was around, Tails Channel, when he was Tails Channel and not currently just his name of Matt Mannheimer, meeting all these people, all because I talked to one person and try to hold on to that friendship. Now, of course, there are some people who we had our disagreements. One is my fault. The other, I kind of hold on them. One, I kind of hold on the other person. I'm not going to name who of all these people I've listed off, just because I don't want to hurt them. But I've lost some friendships along the way because we either butted heads or we could not, or we stopped seeing eye to eye on things, and a lot of us were just butting heads, This was a time when a lot of people were falling out in the Let's Play community because they weren't getting what they wanted from the friends they made, so they just kind of split ways. At least some people did. But I talk about all this in my chain of how I know people because there's people I know now that you guys have seen in my videos recently, like, you guys have probably, Neuroloca, Animatronics, Chris, I forget what her Twitter handle is, like, I'm starting to make friends with people that don't just make Let's Plays now. I'm meeting and greeting with people who don't focus on that and don't even have the clout to chase, but they're wonderful people to talk to because they're actually just, they're just good friends. And it's so wild that now I'm just like, oh hey, you're this person, cool, it's nice to talk with you. When, 5-7 years prior to that, I was just like, please let me ride your coattails, please. I want to be just like you. That's creepy. I shouldn't do that again ever. So some other questions here that I'm going to address now that people probably ask me here and there, and that I guess I will address some that people might have is, why do I still do this? It's been 12 years. You know, most people who have been doing this for even 5 years, if they hadn't reached a point of stability in making videos, they would have stopped. Why do you still do this? Why do you still make videos? You just like doing it. Like, it's now so ingrained in my day-to-day life and everything that if I stopped doing videos, I think I would actually go crazy. I think I'd actually go, you know, clinically insane. Because I wouldn't have anything to fill a void, so to say. But beyond what is probably actually that reason is I just enjoy sharing what knowledge I can with people now. Like, even though most of my knowledge does boil down to what I know of a video game, it does like feel like I have some purpose and gives me something to do with my time where I can just, you know, put out there, hey, here's this thing I know. You might not know this thing, so here's the thing you can learn. Woo. Yeah, I know it doesn't help at all, but roll with me on it. And another thing that I know some people might ask is, why don't you chase trends? Other than the fact that I tried to way back when. But why don't you currently chase trends? If I started chasing trends, I would double the amount of work I would give myself, which is too much to do right now at this point in my life, where I don't make enough doing the videos I do. Again, this is full transparency time. I don't make enough recording the videos I do, editing and uploading them. I don't make enough off of all that to make it my full-time job. If this was my full-time job, I would consider maybe doing more of new day release or things of that sort. But as it sits right now, if I tried to chase trends or do the day one stuff or try and record something right as it comes out, I would have no time to myself, even more so than I do now, and I would just crash and burn. But that also folds into, you know, doing the day one walkthroughs or day one let's plays. Is the shortcomings that come with doing stuff that is a trend is, you know, the game I'm recording right now, and I think we'll probably be finishing up by the time this video is live. I'm recording this in advance, surprising no one. Doing a video day one, doing a video series day one as soon as you can, sometimes has its shortcomings in that the company that makes that game could run into some social media backlash, or for the case of Indivisible, you know, the company could just dissolve the moment the game is live, and then you have nothing to give back to say, hey, here's this company. There's no one there to reciprocate the spotlight I've given the game. So, but I also try my best to abide by an old rule that was established when Let's Playing was nothing more than pictures on a forum instead of video footage of the new game rule. The new game rule has adjusted over time, but the general rule of thumb for a while was if it's 6 months since the game's release, if it's earlier than 6 months since the game's release, don't cover it. It was kind of like a golden rule that everybody abided by. Don't do a Let's Play series or a walkthrough series on a game if it released within the last 6 months, because other people still want to play it. And I still hold up that rule myself to an extent, because like I said, that rule's changed a little bit, but I hold up that rule because, yeah, I'm playing a game that somebody's already finished, correct. I also still want to give people who just got the game and don't want to be spoiling things, I want to give them that time to enjoy the game before it's just floodgates open. Nowadays, that rule has kind of shortened down to 3 months time because a lot of games are being released in super rapid succession, and especially if it's an indie game, like if you cover an indie game, the chances that you break the day one or don't do it if it's older than X new LP rule, that whatever I called it a minute ago. Short-term memory is awesome, by the way. Especially if you do an indie game, like it's really hard to ruin that for somebody at that point, because people who have that game are probably going to already be playing that game or have already finished that indie game. But something for that's like a AAA, like a Nintendo, you know, I still try and hold my best to the 6-month rule, more or less. And the other thing that I think some people might have questions on is Burnout. I mean, doing it for 12 years, you're eventually going to burn out, right? I think I had that a couple times. I definitely burned myself out really hard when I did Breath of the Wild and tried to just throw out as much footage and throw out as much content as I could with that game. Just, you know, do it all super fast and just put it all out there. I gave the time frame that it took me. I don't think I gave the time frame, but it took me a month and a half. It took me a month and a half to play through Breath of the Wild. It took me a month and a half to record and edit Breath of the Wild. And then once I knew what I was doing, for a game that large, recording that much of it so fast burnt me out super hard. Like, there was that period of time where for about 6 months, I don't think I just did anything with videos because I actually burned myself out. So burnout is a real thing, and for me it comes about when I do too much video work. Like, I enjoy doing this video work, this content creation stuff. I love it. But doing too much of it really messes with my head and gets me, I don't know, gets me discouraged to do it any further. Like, there's a couple times, you can probably tell if you watch a series close enough. There's a couple of series where it's been like, okay, I need to record my weekly batch of this video series, and it's Friday, and I know I'm gonna have almost no time to do it over the weekend. For one reason or another, I have to record it now. And forcing myself to record it leaves that video series leaves a mark on the video series as a whole. And I hate when that happens. But unfortunately, it is kind of a necessary evil for what I do. And I hate that I have to do it sometimes. I haven't run into that issue so much recently because I have scaled back, how much I do in advance, mostly because of hard drive limitations. But I scaled back, how much I do in advance now. But I also try and record stuff in advance because in the event that I get sick, well, I'm sick. I can't really bounce back on, bounce back super hard. It's like I get sick, okay, or I get sick, I've uploaded up to part 5. I've sit here and record part 6. I sound like this. Go record part 6. I never want to run into that issue, so that's why I record so far in advance. But the recording of when I did Breath of the Wild, it gave me that freedom to record. It gave me that freedom to record everything so far in advance that I do now. That if I do get sick, when I come back from being sick, I don't even worry about it. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to cut this down, but I'm looking at the time I've been recording things, and it is over an hour of recording. I'm going to cut this down. I know for a fact. But there's probably some questions I haven't addressed, and some things you guys probably want to know as well beyond this. So leave a comment down below. Not just for my sake. Not for my sake. Not for me getting the algorithm's sake. None of that stuff. Leave a comment down below. I'll answer any questions you may have that I have not addressed in this video. As for the future's kind of all over the place for me. Like, would I love to do this for another 12 years? Absolutely. As of right now, I've reached a perfect balance of my social life, my video creation life, and my 9-to-5 job life where I could definitely see myself doing this for another 12 years. Things will get a little bit stranger because I am admittedly getting to the end of my knowledgeable part of video games. Because I once again had a point in time in my life where I just didn't play any new games. I only played the old stuff I knew. So I'm still trying to play games to get more video series going, more knowledgeable video series, but a lot of stuff's going to be blind more than not blind now, just because I've tapped myself, so to say, on how much I've got available to me to record anymore, because I just didn't play any new games for a long time. But yeah, circling back around to what I said. If you have questions you want me to ask, please do ask them. Whatever the question they might be. Whatever weird or strange question you might have, please just ask it. If I don't feel comfortable answering it, I will tell you, I'll make that my comment that I respond to you with. I don't feel comfortable answering this question, or something close to that line. But anything else, I'll answer your question. Because I may not have the notoriety of some of the people who have been doing this for as long as I have. or even the editing knowledge of some people have. I'm pretty sure this green screen that I've had behind me this whole time, I'm pretty sure this has been bugged this whole time. Despite the fact that it looks fine when I do streams with this thing behind me, it's near flawless. I'm pretty sure in my editing software, it's probably going to bug out on me. I don't know where that went to all of a sudden, but I really hope, for those of you that have been with me this whole time, which is being honest with you guys, transparent again, is only a handful of you still. I hope you kind of enjoyed seeing me as a person grow up over these last 12 years. And I've kind of enjoyed, even though people have come and gone, it's been nice to see people every now and again and see how they've grown up over time. Like, I do care more about somebody's experience viewing my content and me making the content now than just grinding out the content anymore. So I hope that for both of us, you know, it's been a good process. Anyway, I'm rambling on at this point. Thank you guys for as much of your time as you give me on this video, however much time it will be. Well, I'll just see you in the next video. I've got no grandiose plans at this point. I'll just see you in the next video, wherever that pops up. Thank you all so much for your time today. We can take this away. I released an anniversary video on time for a change.